Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of the new year of What a Hell of a Way to Die. 2022, an election year for us in America, so the dread will just continue to grow, I'm sure, for the rest of us. And Nate over there in England, where everything is just very British, and that's bad enough. So Nate, you were telling me earlier it's really nice over there. What's going on? Why you got nice weather and I don't?
It's just clear. I mean, it's pretty cold actually. Like as cold as it typically gets around here. It's the weather is like pretty close to freezing, but today is like not a cloud in the sky. Which Cynthia shared this on her Twitter account, but there was an observation that over the course of 16 days in December at Heathrow Airport, they observed a grand total of 12 minutes of sunshine. So having a day where there's genuinely no clouds in the sky it's really, really nice. And I need to go and maybe do a little bit of weeding out in the garden or do something just before the sun sets, because the sun's going to set. It is finally moved past 4 p.m. when the sun sets. We're back to, but it's like 4:08 p.m. that the sun is going to set today. So I'm going to try to get maybe just a brief little glimpse of sunlight as I'm going through my tasks today. But I mean, it's Britain and America are neck and neck with regard to the uninhibited spread of the Omicron variant of COVID. We are fortunate in the sense that so far it seems that there has not been a huge uptake in ICU admissions for COVID or ventilations or deaths from COVID. There has been an increase, but relative to the number of cases, it is quite mild. And I think that, like, obviously we're waiting to see what happens because, people were, not only were they mixing, without restrictions over Christmas and New Year's, but England didn't have any restrictions at all, whereas Scotland and Wales did. So a lot of people from the Welsh border or from the cities of Scotland went down to England to party and then came back. So we're going to see what happens. I mean, obviously, like, if it doesn't cause problems, then great. I'm wary no matter what. And as I said on Twitter, like, I'm comfortable trying to play it safe to some degree without being paranoid, assuming that if I do eventually get it, hopefully it'll be like the Omega Neutron variant that just whitens your teeth and has zero side effects. It lets you, it actually brings you into a subconscious state where you can choose your character sliders. And so I can make myself just super fucking jacked and also really, really nice and smart.
Yeah, I got the one that makes my dick bigger, as it turns out.
Yeah, exactly. Now it genuinely is a novelty oversized fire hose, and this actually has proven a huge problem in my sex life. So I need to get that specific variant of COVID again, so I can go back and be a little bit more modest.
I need to get the one that makes my dick stop working.
It's called being a conservative pundit.
Hey.
How are things going for you in St. Louis? How's my parents said it was cold. It was weirdly warm around Christmas, and then there's been like snowstorms all over the country.
God, yeah, it's been so. I mean, Midwest weather. It can be all over the place. And I hate looking at like Midwest weather, especially during spring or fall or early winter, and trying to make any kind of like judgment based on any of that stuff, because like it's just wildly different constantly. And like we had like unseasonably warm weather, and yeah, I mean climate change obviously, but also like the Midwest is just weird and fucked up like that, and probably because of climate change. But I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can, because now it's cold and I got to walk a dog every morning at fucking 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And so when it's, 20 degrees outside, I do not like that because it's cold, and my dog's a Pyrenees and she's just like, no, this is fine. I love it. Let's hang out. Let's mingle. Let's sniff some things. There's a lot of dead brown leaves to fuck around in, a lot of things to pee on, while I'm just trying to drag her back to the house because I'm fucking cold off my ass. So, hopefully that's not going to stick around too much longer. Like, I don't know. I hate winter. I hate being cold. I hate anything below 30 degrees. Just fuck off with that nonsense. Just I want nothing to do with it. But also without that, then I don't really appreciate spring and summer. So I don't know. I'm middle-aged now. So like, you get to that crossroads of like, do I really like need these experiences? Do I really like, you start to understand why people just like, fuck all this. I'm moving to Florida where it's just hot all the time because I can deal with that a little bit better. So I'm not exactly there yet. I do go to Florida a lot, but I don't actually want to be there. on a permanent basis. Not for any real political reasons, because I'm from Missouri, so it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just from the frying pan into the fryer with that one when it comes to COVID or politics. I just don't want to get hit by a hurricane or have my house disappear in 50 years. So I stay on the bluffs of the Mississippi, where at least when the oceans start rising further and further, I'm in the middle. So like, it'll just be an island around me. It'll just be a St. Louis shaped island in about 500 years.
Yeah,
At least that's my hope.
I am deeply fascinated, and especially this time of year, enamored with the weather of Southern California in general and Los Angeles in particular. And it's I know it's a stupid notion for me, because every time that I've been to Los Angeles, I'm like, man, this fucking place sucks, but the weather's incredible. And so there's a part of me that sometimes thinks like, I'm an American citizen, I could just move to LA if we wanted to. But then I'm also reminded that like all of the issues that come along with living in LA, and how insanely expensive it is, and how you have to drive everywhere, and that public transit is, while it is growing, it is still very limited. And, but then it's also like, what if I just lived a chill ass life? I don't know if that's even possible. I'd have to actually come into contact with TikTok people. Like, it's all just, I wouldn't want to do it.
There are so many houses in my neighborhood for sale for like under 200,000, brother. Just come on over.
I'm not moving back. If I'm moving back to the Midwest, I'm moving to Chicago or Minneapolis. I'm sorry. I'm not moving to St. Louis. It's just not fucking happening.
Why not?
If I was going to live in a city like St. Louis, I'd just move to fucking Indianapolis. I'd be close to my family. I mean, that sucks, but like, at least it's home.
We've got all kinds of chain restaurants, everything that you could possibly want here, man. We got a TGI Fridays on every corner. How could you say no to that?
Yeah, I mean, I also like St. Louis don't get no offense, but I mean, I've spent time in St. Louis.
You're not going to say anything that's going to offend me.
St. Louis is like the worst of the Midwest and the worst of the South all in one. Like, I'd rather just live in the fucking South. Also, Missouri is by far one of the most insane states politically, like worse than other states in the South. Genuinely worse.
St. Louis also is incredibly racist. Like, it was built on racism for racists, by racists. Like, everything about it is incredibly like, my wife and I often talk about, like, when one time we went to we spent a long weekend in Minneapolis, and this is years ago, and we were just like, we stayed off of Beale Street. We went to go do all sorts of things around Minneapolis, or Memphis. We went to Graceland, we went to the Pink Palace and everything. And the thing that we really noticed is just like, and then we started noticing in other cities that we went to, is just like, this place is really integrated, and St. Louis is just not. And when you find a place that's integrated, because I live in a mixed neighborhood, like economically and racially and everything, and like, it doesn't seem weird to me, because that's how that's neighborhoods I've lived in for the last, decade plus. But like, in like other St. Louis areas, you just like, there's a lot of white people or a lot of black people, and not a lot of like smashing together of these two and people living together. And that's really by design in a lot of ways. I mean, shit, we just, I think, elected our first black female mayor ever. Like, we're an insane, like, I joke about it. Don't actually move to St. Louis. I don't think Cynthia would like it here.
No, I don't think she would either. I mean, I was there for a friend's wedding, and I was taken aback by, what is it, Delmar Boulevard? Like the line that absolutely divides the city, that like around the Washington St. Louis campus and pretty much close up to Delmar Boulevard, the houses look like fucking Newport, Rhode Island mansions and shit. And then immediately you cross it and you're like, wow, this is LA after the riots. Like, it's just, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but like, it's so stark. And like, I've seen the sort of, railroad tracks, red line boundaries in other places that I've lived in America, and I know how stark it can be. New York is actually shockingly stark in that regard, as how school districts are drawn, for example, which doesn't necessarily manifest on the ground when you're walking around, but it does when you're out, during the day, and you see like you cross Fulton Street, and it goes from being like an entire a public school class of kids and everyone is white, or everyone is white and Asian, to, you cross the street and at a playground or some school trip, and literally every single student is black, and it's like, there just isn't any integration at all. And so New York is one of, if not the most segregated school system in America,
really?
And the most segregated neighborhoods in America, and school districts in general in America, are in the Midwest and in New England and the Northeast. Like, it's not the South.
All the Spider-Man movies led me to believe that New York was very integrated.
I mean, it can feel that way because of the people kind of being smushed together in housing, but when it comes to stuff like to schools in particular, it's incredibly segregated. It's so shockingly segregated. And it's just, when you hear about this stuff, like you'll see it. I think specifically when you see like when school's out, for example, and you'll realize that, you know, in Park Slope, there will be a school and everyone is white or Asian, with like maybe a handful of kids who are not either of those ethnicities. And then you go down to Sunset Park and the entire school, every single kid in the school is Hispanic. There are no like non-Hispanic white kids, you know, and that's not that far. That's like a couple avenues over. It's really close. Similar, I mean, I spent a little bit of time in Manhattan. It's interesting too, because in Manhattan, Manhattan is basically everywhere in lower Manhattan, pretty much everywhere south of 125th Street or south of 96th Street, with a big broad swath going up by the Columbia University campus to about 125th Street. If you look on household income in New York City, everyone in that boundary I've just described, the median household income is over $200,000. The entire area, with an exception of what I just described, north of 125th Street on the west side and north of 96th Street on the east side. And then there's a cutout around Chinatown on the lower east side, like where Avenue C, Avenue D towards the East River, in some of the areas that are mostly public housing. Other than that, Manhattan is almost that's median income. Now, that's not to say there aren't people making less than that. There's lots of people making less than that. But like, that's how concentrated the wealth is. And then when you see public school kids and stuff around, you'll see that, like, you know, there are school districts drawn within some of these neighborhoods. And somehow, some way, people have figured out a way to make one school entirely non-white and the other school entirely white, with very, very little, you know, meeting midway. And it's incredible. I mean, it's genuinely incredible how segregated schools are, and how, I mean, and I love New York. New York feels like home to me out of anywhere else in America, but how fucking smug New Yorkers can be about New York. And you're sort of like, bro, you do realize that like this is the worst place in the country in terms of school integration, and that you have schools, you know, 5 miles east of here where fewer than 10% of male kids graduate from high school, you know, and then
New York is like a mythical place for the rest of America. Like, either like movies take place in either New York or LA. Like, on occasion you'll get one that takes place in Chicago and all the Midwesterners get really excited. But like these places, that's why everybody's just, you know, thinks of New York and LA as these, you know,
there's also the
places
recent trend of everything being in Boston, and it's so like Boston and Indianapolis are about the same size. Like, can we please have entire fucking film dynasties about Indianapolis, about, you know, the moral complications of being a guy from Indianapolis who joins the police or whatever the fuck?
I want to see a Mark Wahlberg and fucking Leonardo DiCaprio vehicle based in Indianapolis, where they joined the Indianapolis Police Department or the Bloomington Police Department.
Christ, there was a movie with James Gandolfini that was set partially in Indianapolis, where he, like, their daughter like runs away from home. I think she winds up in New Orleans, but then like they live in like Fishers or Noblesville, somewhere in Hamilton County, which is where I'm from. And I mean, it was definitely shot on location, and I was like, Christ, I've never seen my hometown featured in cinema before. Like, there it is.
There's a science fiction movie called Black Hole that was shot inside of our old science center. Like, I think this movie came out in 2006. This is a god-awful movie. But so our science center has, like, we have a planetarium, and then, like, 30 years ago, they built a newer science center, and then they connected it with a bridge over a highway and a tunnel and everything. And so they always have, like, you know, different things in the tunnels. They have different, right now they have a big display on viruses and vaccination history and stuff like that. But, you know, they shot, like, before they renovated all that stuff, they shot this movie down there. And it's like, you know, like, they don't say specifically that it's taking place in St. Louis, but if, like, you remember, like, the bathrooms, like, they're shooting in a bathroom, it's like, I've pissed there. I know where that is. I know where that bathroom used to be. So we don't really get a lot here in St. Louis. And I don't know if that's for good or not. I know there is also some futuristic sci-fi world thing where they're just like, look, there's the arch and it's broken in half, but like also the Mississippi River wasn't there anymore, so I don't really know what they were going for. It's like, did you guys see that there was an arch and not notice that we were also like a river commerce kind of city? Or just, I guess it doesn't really matter. Sure, put it up on a bluff. Why not? I guess. And that's why you can't make movies in St. Louis, because pendant fucking people like me will get pissy at them, much like we do with military movies in general also, though I try to curb myself from that shit.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I'm trying to get away from really being pedantic about stuff, because, like, quite frankly, it's just it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really serve anybody. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. And I also think that the further that I get from having been in the military, the less that I care. Like, I'm reading a Dennis Lehane book right now, and there's some stuff in there that's pretty accurate about the military, like guys past military service. But then there's also stuff in there that's incredibly wrong. And I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. Let it fly. It's Shannon Sharp. No problem. But what I do want to talk about is something that is actually very accurate, which is the Navy SEAL Copypasta. Which, if you're not familiar, and I'm surprised if you're not familiar with it.
It's been a while since that's been a thing that people like. The Copypasta, the Navy SEAL Copypasta, I've not seen posted in a long time. It's been many years. It's like much like pig poop balls, man. It's a relic of a certain time on the internet, and that time was like maybe 7 years ago.
It is. It basically came out. It was 2010, I think, was the first time it's documented as being a thing that exists. And I'm going to read it in Maureen Todd voice, just so everyone understands that if you ever encounter this on the internet, that this is what's being referenced, and also that this is in many ways a foundational text for understanding our conception of the Navy SEALs, not in movies like fucking whatever Zero Dark 30, but rather in terms of how they're actually perceived among morons like us online and guys who have dealt with them downrange.
Yeah, the people who have met Navy SEALs and worked with Navy SEALs and been like, "Oh, you guys are fucking terrible. Get out of here."
This was the Copypasta, and I'll just read it in its entirety. What the fuck did you just fucking say about me, you little bitch? I'll have you know I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, and I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I am training guerrilla warfare, and I'm the top sniper in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. You are nothing to me but another target. I will wipe you the fuck out with the precision the likes of which has never been seen before on this earth. Mark my fucking words. You think you can get away with saying shit like that to me over the internet? Think again, fucker. As we speak, I am contacting my secret network of spies across the USA, and your IP is being traced right now, so you better prepare for the storm, maggot. The storm that wipes out the pathetic little thing you call your life. You're fucking dead, kid. I can be anywhere, anytime, and I can kill you in over 700 ways, and that's just with my bare hands. Not only am I extensively trained in unarmed combat, but I have access to the entire arsenal of the United States Marine Corps, somehow, and I will use it to its full extent to wipe your miserable ass off the face of the continent, you little shit. If only you could have known what unholy retribution your little clever comment was about to bring down upon you. Maybe you would have held your fucking tongue, but you couldn't, you didn't, and now you're paying the price, you goddamn idiot. I will shit fury all over you and you will drown in it. You're fucking dead, kiddo. Anyway, that's
fantastic.
That's just good.
I can't tell if that was like posted in earnest or if that was meant to be like, I think it was a 4chan copypasta.
Yeah,
and
it was some kind of something that was put. Yeah.
It feels like something that was put together like as a joke, and it is one of the better copypastas out there because it's long. You only need the first line. Like, if you just post the first line, "What did you just say to me, you little bitch?" Everybody knows exactly what's coming next. You don't have to type the rest of it out. It's fantastic in that way. It is like this is a Navy SEAL. It's somebody who is really up their own ass. Who is threatening you for no apparent reason other than you like offended their sensibilities on the internet, and they're not actually going to fucking do a goddamn thing about it. Other than like, I don't know, do some coke and fucking go kill a civilian in a drunk driving accident over it or something. Like, there's nothing that they're really going to do. So, but Nate, why did you want to read the Copypasta today?
Well, because
why excise this?
I wanted to bring this up because something has happened in American politics that I think gets to the heart of the same spirit of the Navy SEALs Copypasta, and that is that the Navy SEALs filed a lawsuit, or a group of Navy SEALs filed a lawsuit saying they shouldn't be required to take the COVID-19 vaccine, which the military has mandated military-wide. And of course, a Trump-appointed judge who at one point was the kind of person who tried to like file a bill to get rid of Obamacare. He who was appointed to the federal judiciary with basically zero trial experience, as per normal, the Trump judge kind of thing. He is cited in their favor, and it's going to one of the U.S. circuit courts that's also extremely full of Trump judges. So it's entirely possible that that Navy SEAL Copypasta anti-vaccine guy might wind up being heard in the Supreme Court, and thus allowing the anti-vaxxers, if the Supreme Court chooses to tell the military to fuck off, which is very funny to me because the Supreme Court numerous times opted to not hear cases challenging don't ask, don't tell. But if they did this, like, I would cringe. I would feel very frustrated at the stupidity of everything, and the fact that we have this illegitimate board of psychos that gets to do fucking, like Opus Dei shit on us. But also I would laugh because like that would put forth their priorities, that the same court that is unequivocally going to end Roe versus Wade is also being like, actually, the government can't tell you to get a vaccine, but they can force you to bring a child to term. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I really want a Supreme Court decision that says you don't actually have to follow lawful orders anymore in the military. Like that's and I have been reading into this, and one of the things is that the conversation of fetal stem cells being used, which hasn't been used in fucking like 40 years. They're not in current vaccines or anything, but like some of them, well, this lawyer that I was reading about who's representing these 35 fucking Navy SEALs who don't want to get the vaccine are, it's like they're saying that they just found out about these allegations of fetal stem cells being used is just coming to light, and it's going to bring into question all sorts of other vaccines. I'm like, these are Navy SEAls, man, like. These dudes fucking kill civilians.
There's dead fetal cells involved should get you off, you fucking psycho. Right? That's killing kids is your thing. Like I thought every single person who's ever been downrange and dealt with fucking cleaning up an op site from Navy SEAls know that they love nothing more than killing as many civilians as possible. Like they genuinely, they're like, oh, I can't bring myself to do this morally. Like, but you're a Navy SEAL. This is what you do.
I am surprised that they don't walk around with syringes to like take the blood out of their fallen enemies and inject it into themselves as some sort of like weird proto-Mayan like heart-eating exercise.
Your guys did a whole thing with fucking like the medic. The guy fucking be like, hey, I made my own knife in my knife workshop, and now I'm going to test it out, killing a 15-year-old kid who's being fucking treated by my own medic. And even the medic lost his mind, but still wound up fucking like defending this guy on the stand in a roundabout way. Like, come on. Like, it's just weird to me that like the one time when I would say the sort of like the most vulgar reductive stereotype of everyone in the military about like just merciless psychotic murderers of children, like the one time when I'd say no, that's actually accurate is with these guys and they're like, no, I don't want to take a vaccine. Like, fuck off, man. This is God, what fucking babies.
Like, are you going to go into battle without fucking body armor on next? Like, I don't.
Please do that. Please start doing that.
Yeah, feel free to show up to your next battle, like your general butt naked. Just show up in absolutely nothing. Have a full auto 240 Bravo in your hands, and see how that works out for you. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure that you'll get some presidential medals of freedom after that one. After they scrape you off of whatever rock that you just got splattered all over. Look, I mean, we're certainly not pro Navy SEAL around here. And well, I have always been a proponent of telling the government to fuck off. Like, I don't like that's in a like government fuck off in a complete and total way, not in a like, oh, in this one way. And like, I just like if it was the flu vaccine, I wouldn't give a shit. Like, and honestly, I don't give a shit if you don't get vaccinated. Like, if you don't want to get vaccinated, fine. Like, it's been long enough. You can get the vaccine. All the correct information is out there. If you're a listener of the show, I assume that you've probably gotten the vaccine. But if not, for medical reasons or for whatever. I don't care anymore. Like it's out there. You can get it for free. If you don't want it, fine, whatever, don't get it. My issue is the audacity of anybody suddenly being like, no, I don't have to follow the rules, because motherfucker, I followed the rules and I fucking hated the Army. I hated it for 20 fucking years. Well, not the entire 20 years. I hated large parts of it. I also hated being told what to do on quite a few occasions. And I think that these Navy SEALs just have not been told to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up in a long enough time. These are people that like have not had to actually do military shit in a long time. Like, and when I say military shit, I don't mean like running around doing, Army shooting. Like, they do the stuff that's in the commercials. I mean the stuff that's not in the commercials. Like when you're fucking pulling CQ duty on a long weekend, or when you're sweeping up a motor pool on a Tuesday afternoon because there's nothing else for you to fucking do. Like, these guys are treated like they're not soldiers or not sailors, and then that's why they are acting like this. That's why the vast majority of people in the military get the vaccine, because they are treated like, oh yeah, this is just the thing that I do. And then you have Navy SEALs, and it's just Navy SEAls. Army Rangers are getting them, right? Like Special Forces, Delta, I assume. I mean,
I've heard that some friends of mine have told me that like they've had to go pretty heavy-handed with some of their NCOs. These are Green Berets, about getting the vaccine. That once it was mandated, they had to threaten some of their guys with flags and bars to reenlistment and literally separation to do it. And I'm willing to be wrong on this if I'm uninformed, but to my knowledge, I have not heard of any lawsuits filed by U.S. Army Special Forces. Obviously, we have seen stuff like the Oklahoma National Guard commandant basically saying "fuck to vaccines," but I'm not aware.
Governor Abbott has as well. He told the National Guard that Biden is not your president. And that he was going to fight against it. So that's a cool precedent that's suddenly being set.
Sick. Hell yeah. Yeah, exactly. So all I can say is I am not aware of other things of this nature at this high a level that have gone public, but I have heard through conversations with friends who are still in the military, who are in special operations, that this is obviously there's been a conundrum. And I can recall when I was in the Army, one of my colleagues was a West Point grad, but he had been prior enlisted as a Ranger before. And this would have been when we were in Afghanistan and immediately after Afghanistan. And he was super, super, super religious and super anti-vax. And that was, in like 2010. So it doesn't, I would be hesitant to say that this is a SEALs only problem. I think what makes it funny and also sad is that the SEALs decided to file a lawsuit about it, or a group of SEALs decided to file a lawsuit about it.
Well, they found that they're being represented by the same dude that represented Eddie Gallagher. So I'm sure that everybody's just got that dude on speed dial for like, hey, we want to do something really fucking stupid and controversial. Do we have a lawyer that can do that? Yeah, we got the guy who got Eddie Gallagher off. Yeah,
he's actually a double tasked, double qualified war crimes defense and publishing law lawyer.
Yeah, he can make sure that your copyrights are good, as well as make sure that the fact that you blew away a 10-year-old child is actually okay, because there is an AK-47 within 100 yards of it. It's again, it's nobody has properly done military stuff with these people, and I think that that's where our biggest problem in the military is that we allow there to be like an elite group, and that elite group is not, I don't know how things were before the global war on terror. I know that like obviously now operation tempos have been well spun up, especially after 9/11. So like beforehand, I know special forces did do operations, but they weren't as big as they are currently. They weren't, rotating out as much as possible. And like the thing is that over 20 years, we do only have a very small amount of special forces, so they're constantly being rotated out. I don't know if we haven't beat this into our listeners' heads enough, but like war fucks with your brain real bad, like real fucking bad. Nate and I are not Navy SEALs, and we're fucked with our brains. I didn't even get blown up. Like Joe Kasabian at least got blown up. My brain problems are specifically emotional and not physical. So when you have these guys who are constantly in battle, constantly in combat, constantly getting blown up, you're gonna have these kinds of problems. And nobody's putting the thumb down on them. Nobody's saying, hey, you guys need to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. You guys need to stop doing coke, stop drinking yourselves stupid, stop shooting each other, stop shooting your wives, stop fucking abusing your children, stop doing all these things. But those things don't happen. Like they're given all this impunity, and like we've talked about this many times. I
was thinking about our episode with where we talked about
Seth Hart. When we talked about that, and he still writes about those things. Davis Winke also writes about these a lot of these things. These are all like things that we allow them to get away with, and because we allow Navy SEALs to get away with being abusive, with in some cases, outright rape, in murder, in other times, we're just allowing people to hold guns to their children's heads, and then once they're settled down, we let them retire without any problems. And that is because we're not holding these guys to any kind of standard, and that's going to cause these problems. And that's why these Navy SEALs are all like fucking up their own asses, is because nobody has slapped them down and said, you are a fucking E7, shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck what you can do, shut the fuck up.
This isn't going to happen because America, in terms of how things are progressing, we don't have... We basically have a government where one side is braying fascists and the other side wants all of the economic policies of the braying fascists, but wants you to respect them for being slightly nicer about it. And I think furthermore, they are terrified of pushback. They're terrified, whereas Republicans don't care. They'll burn everything down to get what they want. I think that when you look at, for example, how deferential Democratic mayors are to police unions, and the police unions still are just like braying fascists, saying like, please kill our boss. We want you to murder our boss. We would murder our boss if we could get away with it. Maybe we can, but could you do it for us, please? We promise we won't prosecute you. And I think about that, take that on a national scale. There's no way that politicians would actually do the right thing, which is they need to disband these units and they need to prosecute everybody. They need to prosecute everybody. Yeah. Like they need to disband these units and they need to prosecute everyone involved, or at least investigate all of them and prosecute. Because I mean, the fact that it's an open secret that Navy SEALs have like reunions where they share photo books of like all the people they've murdered, like the fact that like, guys keep trophies. I've seen guys keep trophies. Everyone who's ever served with them has seen them keep trophies. The fact that they violate laws all the time, the fact that, you hear these stories about drug use and steroid use, and the fact that like they need coke to get up in the morning and weed to go to sleep. Like they basically are able to get away with stuff that no one in the military can get away with in the open. At least it's very hard to get away with. You have to be really hooked up to get away with it. Like even Joe Biden's son couldn't get away with coke in the Navy on a long enough timeline. And these guys get away with it, and then that culture recruits more people who want to get away with it, and it's self-perpetuating. I mean, like, basically, the story of the Navy SEALs post the global war on terror is like if the fucking crash unit and the Rampart scandal in Los Angeles, was an entire military unit, and they made movies about how badass crash was. If them being that way was, people were like, oh, there's no need to investigate. Actually, like these are American heroes. Now, maybe that's what cops in the LAPD think, but the LA police did send some people to prison for what they did with Crash, because they were fucking doing, they were fabricating arrests and planting evidence and, lying on the stand. And like that's only gotten worse in America over time. But there was a moment in the early 2000s when they actually sent people to prison for it. They would never do that. They would never do that against the SEALs. They would never. I do not believe that. And I think that the situation that you have is that military leadership at senior enough echelons who do have the courage to do this would not get backed up by the politicians. And if you're in a situation in which like it's possible that like I said, that like the fucking Knights Templar Opus Dei fucking Supreme Court justices are going to side against the vaccine mandate. I mean, like what that basically tells you is that even if the military leadership decided it wanted to do something, to combat the sort of like right-wing carbon monoxide poisoning brain that's spreading across America, it doesn't matter. Like that won't be upheld. they can't actually, bring the hammer down because, Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh and fucking Neil Gorsuch will, along with Samuel Alito and fucking John Roberts and Clarence Thomas will side in favor of carbon monoxide brain death. And so you get yourself in a situation where it would be very, very difficult, even if the chairman of the Joint Chiefs or the Secretary of the Navy, the Secretary of Defense wanted to come down hard on these people. Certainly if, people like at the general officer, flag officer equivalents wanted to crack the whip, like, I feel as though it would be very challenging. And obviously, like, when you look at the Navy in general, I mean, they might just have to fucking fire literally every officer in the U.S. Navy. Between the SEALs and Fat Leonard, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, if they're not, and if it's not one of those two, it's just they're getting fired for not prosecuting sexual harassment or sexual assault. Like there's a commander in an XO from a littoral ship that was recently just removed from command because of sexual assault claims and everything. It's like, man, can the Navy just like fucking stop? Like I feel like on a long enough timeline, this becomes a self-correcting issue because like the Navy is just going to collapse on itself and, probably take the rest of the military with it, because without a strong Navy, you're not going to have a strong ground force, obviously. It all works together. Without a strong ground force, you don't have a strong Navy either. So it feels like on long enough, like there's going to be enough time. And I mean this in like 50 years. This is not a great scenario. Trust me, I'm not hoping for this, but like on a long enough timeline, fascism eventually fucking eats itself and collapses on itself, and then things just get even worse. But that's really the forward momentum that I see for the military, because like you said, this is probably going to say, yeah, you don't have to get the vaccine. Fine. Now all vaccines are going to be off the books for the military. Anybody can join. You don't have to get vaccinated. We're going to, 20 years from now, we're going to start having measles outbreaks in the military again. 30 years from now, God help us, we're going to have smallpox running around again. Somehow that shit's going to come back. And, they're not going to get vaccinated for it. And that's, fucking fine, whatever. Like, I don't know what I can do about it at this point other than, sit here and yell about it. I don't think that there is anything that we can do about it. It's very disappointing that basic information and basic science is kicked to the curb like this. But also, if you look through history, it's always been like this. Smallpox vaccination was the same way. Polio, it took 20 years to eradicate polio. Like, I know people are doing the like, oh God, the pandemic is entering its, second year, third year, whatever. Like, guys, this shit, it's never quick. A pandemic is never quick. Smallpox fucking laid flat 97% of the population in the Americas. Like, it's never an easy thing to do it. And it's not just, because of anti-vaxxers, just the nature of viruses. But man, I'm glad I'm not in the Army anymore. Like, if this decision came down, I would immediately start trying to get out of the Army, because obviously it is becoming a less safe place. Like, you would think that, them not sending us to fucked up battle zones in the middle of nowhere for no reason would make things a little bit better. But we can also see that military spending has not gone down. The Defense Department funding raises higher and higher every year, despite not having a war. And really, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to end up collapsing in on itself, if it's going to eat itself, or if somebody's going to say, what we really need is we really need a good peer-to-peer land war to really kind of get things going. And the only reason like I worry about that is because I'm reading a book about like the history of Smedley Butler, and how during the some of the Spanish War in the late 1800s, like specifically politicians were just like, guys, if we go to war with Spain, we're all going to make so much fucking money. And they were outright with it. They were open with it. They were like, yes, if we do this, the textiles industries are going to go up. The raw materials are going to start moving all over the place. We're going to be able to expand America because there's going to be all this war spending. And yes, a generation of children was going to be run through a meat grinder, sure, but not our children. So we're going to do great, and we're going to make some money here. And that's the future I'm concerned about. I'm just concerned about like a really large scale fucked up war for monetary, for economic reasons more than anything else. I don't know if that's the reading that you get. Maybe I'm just being really pessimistic on a fucking Wednesday morning. But that is at least one direction I see things going.
I mean, I would say that I think that the drift towards embracing kind of national security establishment stuff on the part of the Democratic Party post 9/11 and specifically under Obama and then onwards, them trying to position themselves to be the party of responsible, military deployments.
Responsible wars.
Exactly. Obama even said he's not against all wars. I'm just against dumb wars. And that was his big anti-Iraq line in 2007, 2008, I believe.
I wonder how that worked out.
Yeah, me too. I feel that you're in a situation where there's very limited opposition on the part of any of the two parties to whatever the justification or cause might be. Now, I don't necessarily think, me personally, my very limited assessment of the situation, I don't think that Russia's going to invade Ukraine. They might, but I don't think they are going to. I don't think that China's going to invade Taiwan. They might, but I don't think they're going to. I think that the concern that I have is that we're going to find ourselves in another situation in which, you have even not something so obviously manufactured in advance like the Iraq War. You're going to have something like Libya, and that's going to, the Democrats are going to say we must, deploy troops, et cetera. And this is going to keep going on. And, like you said, the military budget going up by, I think, $70 billion year on year since the previous budget. Getting to the point where you're closing in on, it won't be long before the military budget alone is $1 trillion a year. And I believe it might already be when you factor in defense discretionary spending on top of the defense budget, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm not pretending to be a numbers wonk here. I just worry that there's going to be some sort of thing, and the drumbeat to war is going to be as strong as it was immediately post 9/11, not because of there being some grand offense against America or American citizens or whatever. I mean, obviously the mentality post 9/11, because of the scale and the horror of it, it was incredibly unpopular to oppose military action back in those days. I mean, some people did, and they were on the right side of history. But most people who did had their careers ruined, and most people who supported military anything are now, still in positions of prominence. I don't think that's changed. I think it's gotten worse. And I worry that whether or not it's an overt sort of, like you said, collusion, pork barrel conspiracy to make money, or whether or not it's just the kind of beltway brain replicating itself to the point where these people are so steeped in that mentality that they don't even consider for a minute that this might actually A, not be necessary, or B, not be a good idea. I don't know, but I don't really have a lot of... I would have hoped that the obvious failure and the complete disaster and the sort of the failures of all of the battlefiels and battles of the war on terror, and the fact that it completely vindicated the positions of people who were opposed to it in 2001, 2, and then in 2003 as well, and then subsequently the large numbers of people in America, both in politics and just regular Americans, who were on the fence in 2001 and 2003 about whether or not, the military action proposed was going to actually make America safer. And then seeing what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, they changed their minds and they said, no, this is fucking wrong. Plenty of people who were on the fence about it came out and said, this is completely wrong. I was 18 when Iraq happened. I thought at the time, I just thought, well, surely they wouldn't do this if they didn't have evidence. This must be the thing, that they must have proof. And then within a couple of years, I was like, what a fucking disaster. This is completely, we were completely lied to. And so I'll admit that I wasn't vehemently anti-war when it first happened. I guess, like I said, I was in high school and I just figured they must know something I don't. And
right. It's
and then
weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, if like, because we knew Saddam gassed Kurds. We knew Saddam was
sure.
not
And,
good
and you know what's
everything,
crazy is to discover, this is really sad. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I'll reiterate it in case people didn't hear that episode. Was that it was really sad to me watching the only there's C.J. Chivers, the New York Times correspondent, who's done a ton of amazing war writing, wrote about he wrote about the fact that there were, in fact, American military service members who were exposed to chemical weapons in the post-2003 Iraq War because they came in contact with pre-1991 chemical munitions. And those precursors and munitions were supplied to Saddam Hussein by the U.S. in order to use against the Iranians. So both the precursor chemicals and the actual like chlorine gas and mustard gas rounds that they did encounter. And there were situations where either EOD guys demolishing rounds didn't realize some of the rounds they were demolishing had chemical weapons in them, or IEDs using artillery rounds that also had chemical weapons in them. And so these guys got exposed to chemical weapons. And I saw two things that were incredibly, incredibly sad. Number one was like the what was it, twitchy.com, or the fucking Michelle Malkin, whatever that Jim piece of shit guy is who runs his insane right-wing Islamophobia blog. They tried to run stories like, see, Bush was right, there were weapons of mass destruction. It's just like, guys, you realize that those were weapons we gave them to kill Iranians with. Like, shut the fuck up.
It's a real, like, the beginning of Iron Man when Tony Stark, they're getting attacked, and then like the missile that says Stark Industry hits right next to Tony Stark and then blows up. Yeah, it's one of those moves.
And the other sad thing, the detail in this was that the Department of Defense created a hotline for service members who had been exposed to chemical weapons in Iraq, in order to, help them seek medical care in the VA, because they through the strength of the New York Times investigation, they were forced to admit that actually, like, this wasn't, psychosomatic stress reactions or a sunburn. These guys were exposed to chemical weapons. And then they had to come out and clarify, after their phone line was inundated with people who had symptoms they were describing of being exposed to chemical weapons in Iraq or in the Persian Gulf, that no, this was only if you had been deployed in 2003 or later. Gulf War veterans, please do not call us. When lots and lots and lots of people who served in the Gulf War have some reaction or another, and may very well have been exposed to chemical weapons during that war. And so it was
always very funny. It's very funny to me that, like, it takes so long to get like medical care for things like this. It takes a New York Times article. Same thing with like Agent Orange. Same, any time that there's just like, man, all these soldiers are sick for some reason. Look at the burn pits. Look at the 3M hearing aid things. However, Havana syndrome, yeah, we just are gonna outright believe that and dump a shitload of money into anybody who's just like, yeah, I was hungover for a month and a half.
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, it's just, it's weird, a kind of sideways plug, but one of the things that's very interesting to me from editing Riley Quinn's other podcast, The Bottleman, which is about Canadian politics that he does with Dan Beckner, of the band Wolf Parade and Operators, and also a very nice guy to follow online, is that Canada is similar in this regard, not with, Havana syndrome versus burn pits, but rather there are certain political causes that the government will always support unequivocally and give money to, and there's other things that they will drag their fucking heels nonstop. And the comparison that I would make is that, like, if, my grandfather was definitely a Nazi, Ukrainian Canadians Association wants money for, like, their Victims of Communism memorial that includes literally Adolf Hitler and everyone in the Wehrmacht, then there's plenty of money and time. However, if First Nations Canadians who were kidnapped by their government and forced to live in residential schools where they were abused for years, where hundreds of children's unmarked graves are being found to this day, want restitution, they will fucking drag them through the mud to make sure that, like, any opportunity they have to dismiss their claims, they get dismissed. And it's just like, it's a similar mentality. Like, the U.S., to me, not trying to sound conspiratorial, but like the defense policy establishment, the Defense Department, everyone in that sphere, whether it's military or civilian or contractor or whatever the fuck, they have a sort of vested interest in believing, whether or not it's true, in still believing that, like, Raul Castro has a fucking heart attack gun and an ouchie headache gun that he can zap anyone with at any time they want. And it's insane, it's deranged, but it's also not surprising that people, the same people who got really, really spun up with the idea that that they believe that because Steve Bannon beat them, that he must be this evil puppeteer genius who could zombify people through Facebook and control them like his own little drone army, only to discover when Steve Bannon's emails got leaked along with Milo Yiannopoulos' emails, that Steve Bannon writes like a 14-year-old who's tried cocaine for the first time. He's a moron. He's a complete fucking idiot. He just got lucky, but because he beat them, they believed he must be this deranged super genius with untold powers. It's the same kind of thing. There's a vested interest in saying that that this must be real. And so, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's far easier to get people medical care for the thing that we propose to be called Havana syndrome versus people who served in the Gulf War, 30 years ago and now have physical, psychological issues, they have children with birth defects, stuff like that. And just being able to get it documented and proven that, yes, just because it was a war that only had 3 days or so of active combat doesn't mean that people weren't exposed to things in that area when you think about all the environmental shit that was happening. And I don't know, man, it's sad. And I think one of the things that I feel, I don't want this to be fatalist, but I feel like reading the Navy SEAL story about them and the fact that it is possible that because of the various echelons of Trump judges that they could very easily overturn the military's mask mandate and basically, the commanders lose, the barracks lawyers win. It can only happen with bad things. It can never happen with good things. They would never in a million years allow a court case to go forward by the E4s Association of the United States Army that makes drunk driving legal. They just wouldn't do that. But apparently, yeah.
Every Friday is a half day. Maybe we can get this John O'Connor who's taking up the guys. Oh no, Reed O'Connor, the guy who's taken up the Navy SEALs thing. Maybe he can make it legal for E4s to drunk drive or smoke weed on specific days. Why don't the Navy SEALs ever have a religion? Why can't they be Rasta, where now we all get to grow our hair and smoke weed? It's about vaccines. I don't give a shit about vaccines. I'll get a vaccine whether it's mandated or not. Why can't you give me something cool? Why can't you let me smoke weed in uniform? Why can't I have dreadlocks now? Find a cool religion. Stop finding these shitty religions that are just no, I get to wear Knights Templar shit and hate Muslims and Jewish people. Why don't you instead find something cool that lets us do cool things? Where's the religion that says every Friday we get to just hang out? We get to hang out and meet one another and really get to connect. We don't have to actually do war stuff on Fridays.
As I've said before, and I'll say again, the purpose of the Navy SEALs is that unless there's a tactical mission that requires a halo jump into the ocean and then you climb up a fucking anchor line cable and kill people only with knives, they can never do any mission outside of America. And the only mission they can do in America is pose for fucking charity calendars where they're wearing nothing but Speedos. Other than that, that is the only mission that they can be trusted with until we figure out what the fuck's going on with the U.S. Navy. And apparently a lot is going on with the U.S. Navy and it sucks. So I will leave it with that. But Francis, you recorded a bonus episode with Carrie and Shocks on the topic of in large part, the U.S. Navy, talking about the flimsy case against a young sailor who was accused of setting a boat on fire.
Yeah, they the Richard Bonham, might remember it.
Bonham Richard.
Bonhomme Richard. I'm sorry, I'm St.
Bonhomme
Louis French.
Richard. I don't fucking Bonhomme Richard. Whatever the hell they call it. I'm sure they don't pronounce it correctly, but it should be Bonhomme Richard. But yeah, I'm sure it's the Bonhomme Richard.
The commander was from Gnawbone.
Yeah, exactly.
Indiana.
Or no, he's Canadian. He's from Roncesvalles, Toronto.
Yeah, so we talked about the seaman who was accused of burning that ship down, and how, as it turns out, there's actually no evidence that he did that, other than some people are like, yeah, he's a weird guy and we don't like him, so he probably did something like that, which might work when it comes to war crimes, but not necessarily when it comes to this guy burning everything down. We also discussed the border mission that's going on down in Texas, and how one of our listeners apparently wrote a manifesto manifesto that basically slagged off every every field grade officer and senior enlisted, which is phenomenal. If you're listening, thank you. We read the manifesto, the information that we got. We read that on the show. There's no identifying information in there. Highly recommend you listen to it because it does sound much like every other command that like the commanders are really just kind of up their own asses and don't give a shit about everybody else down there, which is also evident in the fact that soldiers keep committing suicide down on the border during this. So, not necessarily the happiest of news there, but I highly recommend listening to the three of us talk about these two heroes because look. There's a lot of different ways that you can tell the military to go fuck itself, and I am a big fan of anybody that like fucks up an entire boat. I have discussed that at length. Some of the people who did that during Vietnam. So thumbs up whether you did it or not, man. Because fuck that boat. And you know what? Honestly, if a boat catches on fire that easily, it's your own fault, man.
Kind of
it's
a
your own
shitty
boat's
boat,
fault.
isn't it?
They. I know, like, I'm just going to tell you guys, one of the reasons is because they know that contractors were stealing copper off of the boats.
Yeah, no, it's even funnier than that. Contractors were stealing the nozzles of fire hoses on the boats to sell them for scrap.
Yes. So, the problems that you have in abandoned houses, apparently we have those problems in abandoned Navy ships as well.
But they also cost $20 billion a year to maintain. So please enjoy this clip from that episode.
A lieutenant colonel with more than 19 years of active service said that it appears that the military, specifically the Marine Corps, is discharging service members, quote, as fast as they can and as brutally as they can, damaging every Marine as much as they can on the way out.
How the fuck do you get discharged brutally? I don't even want to fucking, because these fucking field grades have been willingly kicking people out for the dumbest fucking reasons for so long. Like failing tape, failing a PT test, all of which probably not entirely their fault due to stupid schedules and shitty leadership, but suddenly you make a fucking choice to torch your career knowing what would happen, and suddenly this is brutality. Suck my dick.
Yeah, and it's like, not for nothing, I personally would not nuke my 20-year retirement just because I was too much of a fucking wimp to get a shot. But I mean, that's just me.
Yeah, and say what you will about the other Lieutenant Colonel Psycho, but at least he leaned all in and didn't hide behind anonymity.
Yeah, that's what and you know he's going to cash in. He's going on Tucker Carlson. I'm sure that he's going to announce that he's running for Senate somewhere pretty soon.
Yeah, I can't wait until he pulls fucking 2% and then gets a divorce. Oh no, he already did that. My bad.
Anyway, congratulations to the future governor of Missouri.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, as long as you don't commit like egregious sex crimes, you can be a governor of Missouri. That's fine.
Egregious being the important part.
Like you have to do some like you got to like tie somebody to an exercise tie them to a treadmill blindfolded and take pictures. Like you got to do some
what
real
Eric Greitens did.
Yeah.
Well, you elected to some other office.
Wasn't it like a Bowflex or something?
It's maybe it was a Bowflex. Maybe a Bowflex was
insulting
involved.
about it being a Bowflex.
he's a Navy SEAL. Navy SEALs love Bowflex.
At least it wasn't a Peloton.
Yeah, I mean, just like some CrossFit bondage is like the really appropriate thing for psychos like this.
Fuck God.
So let's see. Quote, the one message I got from a colonel above me was, tread very carefully. This is political and you will be crushed like an ant. And he told me that because he cares about me, end quote, the lieutenant colonel said. Quote, do I want to continue serving in an institution that crushes people for bringing up reasonable points and defending their faith? Yes. The Marine Corps who like fucking torched entire towns and burned down churches. Like,
this is a crisis of my faith, I say, as I stab another Iraqi to death.
Right. One master sergeant says that it seems the louder I speak, the tighter the screws are turned against me. When you're expected to behave a certain way and obey a certain set of rules and follow a certain processes, and then see on the other hand that it's not a two-way street, that's a violation of my morals, and I can't stand by.
Since when the fuck has it ever been a two-way street in the military?
Please. I don't know. Who are these people? Like, and you know what? It's master sergeants and it's fucking colonels and majors. It's people who I believe like are so far removed from the shitty parts of being in the Marines. Like, you know, when you rank up high enough, like it sucks, but like also things get a little bit easier for you. Like, just you're not digging ditches. You're not, burning the shit in the latrine when you're a master sergeant. So you're too far removed from all of that, like having to actually do stuff and people telling you no. And when you say why, they say, shut the fuck up. That's why.
That's a good reason. Yeah.
Yeah. He hasn't been told to shut the fuck up in a long time. And that a Marine needs that. Like, I'm sorry. Marines need to be beaten constantly. Marines
It goes for
like,
officers of all services and senior NCOs. It's Monday. Line up, gentlemen.
to keep Marines in line, you gotta take a switch to them every once in a while. Like even if they're not doing anything wrong, you gotta hit them because that's the only way.
That's a bit from Generation Kill, right? Like they don't feed us, they mistreat us and beat us, and occasionally let us out to attack someone.
Yeah, that's about it.
I think that you nailed it, is that these people think that this is the biggest fucking injustice that they've ever seen because they're used to being the ones treating people like shit. And
Exactly.
they're like, wait a minute, consequences for my actions? Since when?
That's
more likely than you think.
15 years of Marine career since I've had to face consequences for something.
Yeah, I really wonder with some of these people. Like, I bet there's some really interesting sealed court documents against some of them. Anyway, I'm not going to commit libel completely out loud, but we'll move on.
I mean, I don't think you can libel the anonymous.
That's true. They'd have to out themselves. And besides, I've heard they have a very small penis. small penis rule, baby. Admit who you are.
Yep. Every one of them is a pedophile with a small penis.
Thank you for coming to Joe Kasabian's Lessons on Writing Without Getting Sued.
Where have you been for all of this, Carrie? I'm getting more legal advice from Joe than I am from you.
My agent would hate everything I've just said.
I was told that my job has been automated and offshored earlier.
Let's go ahead and we need to get like was it an Ace Attorney bot to randomly spit out lines at us? Like, let's see what Carrie says and just hit a button. Objection! Thank you, Carrie.
All right. So the Marines who spoke with Fox News said they are on the receiving end of a blanket denial of religious exemption, with their applications being rejected without consideration. 8 separate letters of denial provided to Fox News were nearly identical, citing military readiness as the primary reason. So this is one of my favorite things from the Master Sergeant. I saw one package from a sergeant who had attached like 30 pages of material to substantiate why his beliefs was sincere under no lawful obligation to do so.
It was just 4chan posts stapled to a fucking couch like statement.
It's just like a bunch of rare Pepes.
It was unfortunate. It was the same 30 pages that every other single like dipshit had also attached.
Okay,
to the same, packet.
This is 100% fucking true. If you remember, I believe it was our good shared friend now, Davis Winky, who pointed out that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Delete this if I wasn't Davis. I don't feel like fucking putting him on the hanger here. But he pointed out that I think it was the Army received multiple religious exemptions, and all of them were shit they'd printed offline, and they were all almost virtually identical.
Yeah, no, I wasn't joking before. I mean, we all know, like, I think we all saw around the beginning when the vaccines were getting rolled out that there was a bunch of, barracks lawyers, of one sort or another who were all like, distributing around different packets of, well, if you just copy and paste this and put this into your, request for religious exemption, it will definitely go through. There's no way they can deny, how much you believe in Jesus.
Right.
And
it's in the Constitution. And the Constitution spelled wrong.
I mean, I think it's really notable that for all of these things too, like I've seen a lot of a lot of various sorts of Christians doing it. I've yet to see I think a single Jewish person put in for an exemption, a single Muslim put in for an exemption.
It's almost universally evangelical Christians or just psycho pilled people. These people aren't even religious. Otherwise, they would understand their religion enough to know that it doesn't say anything about vaccines because their holy book didn't exist at the point where vaccines existed.
Right, the religion is I don't want to do it, and like just say you don't want to do it. Don't fucking lie to me. Just be like I'm not going to do it. Be a man. Like stop lying. It's not your religion. None of your no religion is telling you. Just fucking. It's just like everybody who says let's go Brandon. Shut the fuck up. Just say fuck Joe Biden.
Just say fuck Joe Biden. Yeah,
fuck Joe Biden. Fuck him.
Yeah.
He's a shitty president. Just like every other one of the presidents were. They're all shitty presidents.
All presidents are bastards. But
be a man.
It's the thing is like that it's hiding behind something that they were radicalized online to believe that this was within their rights. It's like a constitutionally protected religious freedom issue when legitimately the only people who could believe in that convoluted bullshit are the same people screaming at cops about admiralty law because they don't have a fucking license plate on their car. Like it's the same fucking brain disease.
Yeah, the sovereign citizens who join the Marines somehow, and it's just like I don't know what you thought you were doing or how your brain works to think that you can be outside of the government but also inside of the government. Hold on, this quote turns my fucking brain inside out. So after this master sergeant talks about substantiating why his beliefs were sincere under no lawful obligation to get the vaccine, quote, and then to have this as a response with no individual inquiry and just a generalized assertion of governmental interest is insulting. What the fuck do you think any of us do? It's all governmental fucking interest, man. Yeah, everything we do is to the government's interest.
That's like the fucking main goddamn through line. It's what we all joke about is if you, like, even though half it isn't true, is like if you get a fucking sunburn, you're going to get in trouble for damaging government property. Like the fact that like our baseline humor is that we do not control our own lives is not incorrect. Like you get told what time you have to come to work, and if you don't, there's fucking criminal problems. Like
if you don't show up to work, they will just literally just be like, I could take money away from you, and you have to do everything I say because the law says it, because I have a Chevron and you don't.
Well, I mean, the Navy only started reassessing using bread and water as a punishment in the last few years. Right.
Florida's trying to bring back the join the military or go to prison thing.
Yeah, which not exactly a progressive institution. You've spent 17 years in, you've seen the way that the Army deals with something like travel, or the Marines deal with something like travel reimbursement on a regular basis. Did you think that the system was going to be any better here? Suddenly that you were going to be treated with the respect that you deserve because I don't know, you thought it was going to be they were going to have a custom personalized system for you. Come the fuck on. No
I mean, you're in a job that at any given point you'll receive an email from some asshole on the other side of the country be like, hey, you have 2 weeks to be in fucking Colorado for 3 years. And no, you have no say in this matter. We own you for another fucking 3.5 years. You better fucking show up. And no, but you're right. This is a fucking freedom problem.
All right, everybody, as always, you can follow me at Army Strang, follow Nate at In These Deserts, and follow the podcast at Hell of a Way. It's a new year. It's a new us. We're going to continue doing what we do. We're not going anywhere because, as it turns out, the military keeps doing dumb shit. So as long as the military does dumb shit, we'll always have something to talk about, I guess.
That's very true. And also, we greatly appreciate your listenership. We greatly appreciate those of you who've chosen to support us on Patreon. You can get that bonus episode on Patreon and all the bonus content dating back to 2016 if you sign up at the $5 tier.
So everybody, thank you so much for listening. And Nate, we'll talk to you next week.
Take care.